welcome back to a new episode of There Will Be Expletives. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
This is episode 97, and there is a smorgasbord of what the fuck to talk about from this week, because it was kind of crazy, mostly over the last, day and a half. Just, weird casting choices, kind of left and right, some weird developments for stuff otherwise I would be really, really interested in, so let's just jump right in. One of the totally out of left field ones was this one. Jeff Goldblum is officially returning to Jurassic Park.
We have an actual tie-in between the movies now, assuming he's the same character.
Wouldn't that be fucked up if he wasn't playing the same character?
He's like the son of.
Or he walks into the movie and he just immediately gets eaten by a raptor, and that is his cameo. And no, in all seriousness,
that would be movie of the year.
He comes in just to have a fucking Samuel L. Jackson Deep Blue Sea speech, and then just gets eaten by a Tyrannosaurus Rex. That is no, but I think I get the impression, because of how big of a deal they made it, he is going to be reprising his role. So, what was your initial reaction to him coming back for? Because you and I both like Jurassic World quite a bit, so
yeah, I thought it was awesome.
Yeah. I think this makes it even more interesting.
I'm a fan of the original trilogy, so yeah, I'll watch more Jeff Goldblum.
I think it'd be kind of cool to see him, because in the third movie they got to have Sam Neill return. I think it's kind of cool now that a couple films later we get to have Jeff Goldblum return too.
Yeah, I hope one day we get Sam Neill, but I doubt we will.
I don't think he'll ever. Jeff Goldblum's the kind of guy. When you see his role in Thor Ragnarok right now, Jeff Goldblum's just whatever. I'll just do anything. He's just picking really random roles in certain instances.
What if they made this big deal about him coming back, but they never say who he is? And when you watch the movie, he's just on a TV pitching apartments.com.
Yeah. I would almost respect them more just for being assholes, but I do. I think
Gunn, I would say that's exactly what they're doing. But
I think him and Chris Pratt are gonna have cool on-screen chemistry. Just thinking of their personalities, the way they would clash on screen, I think it'd be really fun.
I don't know how much really they would clash. They were each the one guy telling everyone that this is a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm just curious though, just because I think they could have some really funny banter between the two of them.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, some casting decisions that were not so much as far as our reactions to them. Okay, we've been talking about the casting for some of these Disney live action. I'm just going to call them cash-ins because they're not really adaptations. The Lion King has been kind of getting underway. Jon Favreau's Lion King started off pretty strong. They brought in Donald Glover for Simba, totally A-okay in my book for that. I think it was a great choice. Brought back James Earl Jones for Mufasa. That was kind of a no-brainer. And you would think them bringing back James Earl Jones for Mufasa, naturally, two of the most important characters in Timon and Pumbaa, surely they would bring back the voice. Especially Nathan Lane. Nathan Lane
killed it.
Because the thing is they went and got James Earl Jones as Mufasa, and that's awesome. But I think Timon and Pumbaa are much more important to the movie because they're in the movie for more than 5 minutes. They are two of the main characters.
And I think that's the point. I think Mufasa is going to be the only role reprised. I think everyone else, including Scar, for no fucking reason.
I would bet you all 17 cents of my life savings, Benedict Cumberbatch is going to be your Scar. I just have a feeling. They're going to get a Brit that is super
Idris Elba
again.
Right
now. And since Benedict Cumberbatch is the one person who hasn't been casted out of the major British actors in their current little crop of movies, I almost guarantee you that's who they'll get.
If we're not getting Nathan Lane or Jeremy Irons, and we get Whoopi Goldberg, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah, okay. Let's actually who they're in talks with right now. I don't think these are confirmed, but most of these Disney rumors have ended up being true because it sounds about right too because of the timing because they are officially underway in the production for it.
Yeah.
Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Okay, now in a nutshell, I don't hate Seth Rogen or Billy Eichner. Everyone knows who Seth Rogen is. Billy Eichner is an alum from Parks and Recreation. He's a really, really funny guy. It's just that role is Nathan Lane.
That Nathan Lane is the reason Timon works. And when I think of The Lion King, the first thing that comes to mind is Timon, and the first thing that comes to mind about Timon is his voice. Like, the voice is iconic.
Yeah, I mean,
the way he delivers his lines, down to the mannerisms in which he speaks, everything. To change that?
Because I agree. Like, in my favorite two Disney movies as a kid were always Aladdin and The Lion King. And when I first think of The Lion King, the two characters that come to my mind are Timon and Pumbaa.
Yeah.
Because all the most iconic scenes, that include Simba for the most part, other than the early ones where he's a little, he's little and he's with Mufasa, it's all with him and fucking Timon and Pumbaa. So it's like...
Yeah, like all of Act 2 is him and Timon and Pumbaa.
I don't know. It's just one of those things too, where it's like on the heels of "Don't you guys want Will Smith as Genie?" And it's like my two favorites are getting Will Smith as Genie, and fucking Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner, and then the two that I don't care about at all, The Jungle Book and Beauty and the Beast, they're like, oh, here's Walken, Bill Murray, Dan Stevens, Emma Watson, Tucci. Ian McKellen, McGregor, all these amazing choices.
Yeah,
like, they're all crushed. And then Aladdin and Lion King get like foobarred. Like, it is a personal affront against Geoff.
I think they're trying too hard. Like, Lion King and Aladdin. I mean, you think Beauty and the Beast made them money? What is Aladdin and especially the Lion King going to do? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, Lion King especially was more... I
worked in the hell that was the Lion King release in IMAX, re-release in IMAX. Back when... you know what the IMAX lobby looked like? When you first walk in the doors to the left, there's that big open space?
Yeah.
We had a table set up, and we had merchandise.
Merchandising.
We had Lion King cups. We had Timon and Pumbaa. We had plush Timon and Pumbas. We
Lion
had all
King
kinds
the
of
cereal
stuff.
box.
Yeah, like, we had everything, and there was a manager sitting there with a till, ringing shit up, and we had stuff behind concession. And
I'm pretty sure they are still doing direct-to-DVD sequels to fucking Lion King. Like, it wouldn't shock me. Like,
it wouldn't shock me either. It's kind of like The Land Before Time. It just doesn't stop. Dude, whether Lion King is good or not, it's going to shatter some records, because if you talk to anyone, that's usually their number one. If it's not, it's their number two. And I think it's boiling down to they're overthinking it. These choices with Aladdin in it is the only thing I can come up with, because they know they have to get them right. If they don't get them right, how pissed is everyone going to be? And how long is it going to be before they get a chance to redo it when everyone forgets about their screw up?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of frustrating, because I think I probably look back more fondly on Aladdin, because I think Aladdin is a lot better movie. But if you want to talk about the one that I probably watched the most as a little kid, it was probably The Lion King. I don't know. It just makes me sad that, because like those choices for Beauty and the Beast and Jungle Book were just like nonstop crushing it every time.
Yeah.
And then to see my two favorites kind of not work out as well is kind of disappointing.
And I feel like we should at least point out too that we're not really pissing on the actors. It's the choices for the roles.
Like I said, I think they're both perfectly fine. I think if it had been the situation where if this had been similar to the Genie to where Nathan Lane had, unfortunately like passed away and they had to replace him, I would have been totally fine with Billy Eichner getting it. But with Nathan Lane still, I think he should have. If you're going to get James Earl Jones, I would have just bitten the bullet and gotten fucking Timon and Pumbaa back. Because like you were saying, like they are the whole second act. And you are passing the torch to Donald Glover, and you have, they're probably going to have like a Cumberbatch or someone like that for Scar. So why not have some more of the supporting characters, reprise? But it's just not the world we live in. They want to. It boils down to they want more names for their poster. I think that's, it's a shame. Just it's kind of the way it works. But yeah, it hits theaters. I think it was also announced the release date will be July of 2019.
Yeah, July 19th. One last thought. If not Nathan Lane, I'm really having a hard time coming with his name. The guy that played Alpha in Power Rangers.
Bill Hader.
I think Bill Hader could do a good job as Timon.
I would agree. I think but even kind of like his voice, even if he's not trying to imitate him, I think his voice sounds a little bit closer just naturally to
I agree.
Nathan Lane.
But yeah,
because like when you think of just like how pissy but funny he got as Alpha 5, like I mean it's a little bit of Timon.
Alpha 4 3/4.
Yeah, which ended up. I know we already talked about the Power Rangers for fucking ever, but it ended up actually kind of being like one of the best parts of that movie just because of how good Bill Hader is.
I know, he kind of ended up being like Alpha 5.1 actually.
Right. Another major Disney product that got a release date. Apparently Indiana Jones 5 is still happening, and apparently Disney doesn't realize, like the rest of the world, that Steven Spielberg and Harrison Ford aren't exactly, young spring chickens, because they only delayed it a full fucking year to 2020 from July of 2019. Well, I mean, did they not realize, like
how many planes does Harrison Ford need to crash before they realize we need to hurry up and get him in this movie if we want him?
I mean, they have to, first of all, if this movie actually ends up happening and they don't have an in-joke to him crashing planes, the screenwriter should be fired.
Maybe they're waiting for him to crash onto the set.
Yeah, just eventually he'll make it over there. But what is, because they've confirmed, quote unquote confirmed that both Steven Spielberg and Harrison Ford will indeed be returning. What is your interest level in Indiana Jones 5 at this stage, or at that stage later on in a couple of years?
I mean, I'll see it.
Yeah, you have to
kind
see
of
it.
Unnecessary.
Yeah, I feel kind of the same way. I would honestly be much more interested in the property of Indiana Jones if they would just give it to a new actor just still playing Indiana Jones.
Because here's the thing, like the novel series jump around in the timeline. Like they're not in any particular order. It's just like another day in the adventures of Indiana Jones. So you could get like hopefully Carl Urban or someone like that to take over, and it can take place, say, sometime before Last Crusade.
Yeah, you can do anything with.
You could do anything with it. I mean, you can put them at any time period. Some of the books happen, before World War One.
You know what I think might be kind of the reasoning for this is I think eventually that is the route Indiana Jones is going to take. I think they are going to put it into the hands of a younger act. Maybe once Guardians of the Galaxy wraps up, Chris Pratt, gets a little bit more available. Maybe they could be kind of eyeing him down the road to take over the role. That's another possibility, I think. But I think the reasoning behind Disney having Indiana Jones and not using it is right now they have Star Wars in full effect. I think they might be kind of waiting, because Episode 9, once it ends the new trilogy, I could see them still being producing spin-offs of Star Wars, but then make like their ongoing big series. Like, here's our new Indiana Jones trilogy with Chris Pratt or Carl Urban as Indiana Jones, and then kind of switch gears to have that be like their focal point series for a few years, because right now Star Wars is all the money they fucking need, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
It's just really weird to me that this is still being pushed.
It's really odd to me that it's still being pushed, and it's really odd to me that they just absolutely insist on, and I appreciate having original actors, original people behind projects, but it just seems really odd to me at this stage. I mean, Harrison Ford's trying real hard to check out, man. He's trying real hard to check out. And I mean, I don't think we're ever going to see Indiana Jones 5. I think it's going to keep getting pushed back, and then eventually people are going to drop out.
And it's just weird. There has to be a reasoning behind them not already having Indiana Jones going right now in one way or another. And I just think I think it ties in a little bit with Star Wars. Speaking of Star Wars,
real quick before we segue into Star Wars, I just had a thought that occurred to me. Another thing could be Disney is one of the best at biding their time. Also, if you think about what they do with the Disney Vault and everything else that they do, maybe they just feel like right now the focus is on space stuff or future timeline. They're not ready to revisit the past yet. They're biding their time with it.
And honestly, right now, Star Wars and the Disney quote unquote adaptation cash grabs, whatever you want to call them, are killing it so much that if they were to put out a big Indiana Jones project, they would almost, in one way or another, end up competing with themselves, because they've been putting out the Disney projects, kind of during the summertime, like late spring, and then they have Star Wars usually around the winter time. So, I don't know. I just think there has to be a reasoning, because like Indiana Jones, if any other studio had Indiana Jones,
they'd be all over it.
It'd be all over it. I think it's just
every 2 years another Indiana Jones movie.
I just think it's, and then we're not even mentioning they also kind of get that money from Marvel. That's kind of a big deal right now. So that could be another thing. They could be waiting for Marvel to die down a little bit, and then we need to kind of bump up our fiscal year. We'll throw out that Indiana Jones property everyone seems to like so much, make a little money on the side.
Right.
In a perfect world, though, I would like to see it in a with kind of like a new regime, like a younger actor kind of take over, because I fucking love Indiana Jones, and I want to see it. I want to see more of it, and I want to see it in the hands of like someone new taking over the role. Love Harrison Ford, obviously, but I think it's time for that franchise to kind of reinvent itself, like they've done so well with Star Wars. I think they did a really good job setting up some of the other characters that to kind of carry on the reins, like Rey and stuff like that. I think Indiana Jones could be done well as long as they pick someone good for it. Don't make fucking Will Smith Indiana Jones or some shit like that, and we'll be okay. But with Star Wars,
Seth Rogen.
I would kind of watch that. He's going into the cave, and instead of the idol, it's just like a giant bag of weed, and he's trying to judge what he needs to switch out for the giant bag of weed.
It's Carl Urban and Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen's replacing Jonathan Rhys-Davies.
I can get behind that.
Stanley Tucci is still his father.
Yeah, because Stanley Tucci.
Yeah.
Episode 9, Disney announced, will be released in May 2019 on the 24th, which is a mix-up for them because the new Star Wars slate has always been in December. So I'm kind of curious, like, the reasoning behind it. Like, maybe they have talked about a little bit kind of over the last week or so how during the summertime, maybe around like Comic-Con time, like they're going to be announcing what the new spin-off lineup is going to be, because they've been kind of quiet about that for a while. There have been rumblings about, like maybe Boba Fett or Obi-Wan, stuff like that. But I'm thinking maybe they bumped 9 up a little bit to set up one of the later spin-off movies for a winter release for that year.
Imagine that. One of the episode releases being moved to make room for a spin-off. It would have to be something big.
Yeah.
And I just want to mention so many missed opportunities. I mean, it's Alien Day today. Alien Covenant should have released on Alien Day. And if you're going to go for May with a Star Wars movie, do May 4th. I don't care if that's a Tuesday. Do May 4th.
Yeah, I agree. It would be kind of badass if the end of the last trilogy, you know, like for the time being, is on May the 4th. That would be pretty sweet. While we're talking about it, what type of spinoffs would you like to see them approach? Like the obvious ones. I think eventually Boba Fett will be done, because if they don't use Boba Fett more, I think they're fools, because the bounty hunters in Star Wars have always been one of the coolest aspects of it.
They would be fools not to, because the fact that when they announced spinoffs and Boba Fett immediately popped into everyone's mind universally, and that's what people tweet about, podcast about, talk about. If they never did it, they're just shooting themselves in the foot.
Because like Boba Fett is one of the biggest enigmas in fiction.
Yeah.
Because he is on screen.
No one knows shit about him.
He is on screen for a grand total of maybe 10 minutes. And a lot of people,
he's not even a good character. 10 minutes.
Well, no, he has some pretty cool scenes in Empire just because of how good that original voice was before fucking George Dredd changed his goddamn... God, I'm never going to forgive him for that. You've heard the difference when they played it on Babylon. That original guy's voice was fucking perfect. Because I remember we had a conversation about it, because when Jeremy Bulloch, the voice of the original Boba Fett, passed away, they played the two from the two comparisons, and there's no comparison. The guy was just great. But yeah, I think something with Boba Fett, as well as some of the other bounty hunters, just like Boba Fett, have been fully developed inside the novels and the comics and stuff like that. So there's some cool stuff they could do with them. I think another one they've been talking about was like the Obi-Wan storyline of when he's on Tatooine for that period of time. There's a really cool book where it's kind of like a Western starring him. That's really cool. Ewan McGregor wants to come back. Why the fuck hasn't he been confirmed for that yet?
I have heard rumors that people were leaking the reason we haven't had an Obi-Wan spinoff announced is because the franchise isn't finished with him. The thought is if they did Boba Fett or they did something like that, that he wouldn't be alone. Like there'd be another major character like Obi-Wan in the franchise. Like there's other plans for him is the reason.
I'm just trying to
that came out.
Yeah.
I don't know. That came out, I think, when they first started talking about all the spinoffs they want to do.
You know what I would really like to see? I would like to see them kind of use the Old Republic setting, you know, like from the Knights of the Old Republic games.
Yeah.
And have like a wide, like a kind of like a Game of Thrones style cast where you have several different characters. That way, anyone is free game as far as who you can kill off. Where, you know, you kind of get out of the Star Wars trapping, people being safe.
Right.
And it's just like anything goes, just, you know, balls to the wall. I think it'd be really cool. Because, like, the main thing is, like, Star Wars is, like, such a wide-spanning universe that they're almost better off the further they get away from the current timeline. Because you can do anything in Star Wars that they, you know, for the most part, the movies have not, outside of a couple, you know, instances. Like, they usually stick to kind of the status quo. So it's I'm really fascinated to see what they do with the spinoffs, just because of how much you can do with spinoffs.
Yeah, the world is built so well. It's kind of like we'd always talk about with like Doctor Who, how no one ever really taps its potential.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. We'll probably get more within the next few months. All right. The last bit of movie news. This is I think a must watch for anyone who considers them a fan of Batman, even in the slightest. You owe it to the property and the main guy who really created it to watch this documentary. Hulu has released a trailer for their documentary about Bill Finger. The title of the documentary will be titled Batman and Bill. And if you're not familiar at all with Bill Finger, Bob Kane has been listed, and just until like the last year or so, he had been listed as the sole creator of Batman since the character's inception, and really did fuck all other than take credit for the character. Because as if you watch the trailer, they go into a little bit of detail, but basically anything you associate with Batman at all came from the mind of Bill Finger. The Batmobile, their secret identities, Commissioner Gordon, the Riddler, the Joker, Penguin, Catwoman, just about the utility belt, Dick Grayson.
The utility belt and the Batarang, right?
Fucking everything is Bill Finger, and the guy didn't even have a co-credit just until the last couple of years. I think Batman v Superman and like Gotham were the first things that he started getting credit for.
Yeah, it's one of those infamous yet like unheard of. It's almost infamous and infamous lawsuit. Where kind of like there was one with Superman too, right?
Superman, Siegel and Schuster. It was kind of sad. Like I remember hearing an anecdote from Neil Adams, who's a famous comic artist. He was friends with, I forget who it was, but he was friends with either Siegel or Schuster. And until they eventually settled that lawsuit to where their families could get paid, I remember there was this really heartbreaking story where he said he talked to, I think it might have been Siegel who was his friend. And he was talking to Siegel. They were both in New York at the time while they were doing a kind of like Broadway, I believe it was like a Broadway type play, Superman. And, Neil Adams asked him, he's like, well, when do you think you might be able to go check that out? He's like, Neil, I can't afford to go to that.
Yeah.
They just about died penniless, and they created one of the most recognizable characters on the planet. And it just, the way that the rights worked out back then was just a clusterfuck, because it's like Bob Kane became rich for ghostwriting Batman. He didn't do shit. He just took credit for it.
But it's a absolutely fascinating story.
Yeah.
Because those things were tied up in court since like 70s or earlier, and finally got settled, both of those.
Yeah, so, I think Siegel and Schuster, I think they might have, if not both of them, I think one of them had passed away. And the main thing is now, because of the lawsuit, they both got credit, and their families have like a yearly deposit made kind of out of the rights negotiation for it. So their families ended up getting taken care of, at least. They ended up getting taken care of. But the Bill Finger story, YouTube, the trailer, Batman and Bill. The trailer is great too. It kind of sets it up. They have a lot of interviews going back and forth. Mark Tyler Nobleman is one of the main figureheads they're interviewing. He is the guy who got kind of the without him, I don't think the credit would have ended up even happening as far as like the movies and the television shows for Bill Finger's name on it, because it was his book that kind of spearheaded the whole thing. He was actually, back when Kevin Smith's Batman on Batman show was just the podcast, he had him on to talk about the Bill Finger story, and it ended up helping getting it some traction too. Kevin Smith is one of the people interviewed in the trailer. He's going to be a part of the documentary. So yes, check out the trailer. Please check out the documentary. I am not usually like a big documentary fan. I will be watching this as soon as it airs, because the Bill Finger story is fascinating.
It's just kind of mind blowing. And the other thing that's kind of sad is like they're not the only ones. Like, it's not that like Bob Kane was an asshole. It was standard business practice back then. Like, that's just the way shit worked.
People got mined for ideas, because it's one of those things like, why in a million years?
It's not entirely different from the way the MCU unfolds right now, except people are getting credit.
Right. Because it was one of those things, like, they're creating these characters, in the late 30s. Why would they ever in a million years have the foresight to worry about rights for these characters who are going on a comic book at that time?
Yeah.
Because there's literally no way you could know 75 years later they would be worth billions of dollars. It's like the thought would blow your fucking mind. Like,
and I don't know, the thing that always like disturbed me is, why did it take so long? Like Kevin Smith always says, what's it hurt them now to pay out a portion that's deserved to these people? Why is it a big issue to get the credit on screen? Like, also, it doesn't really affect them. It doesn't really affect the bottom line.
The reason that it ended up happening for Superman a whole lot earlier than Batman is because Bob Kane was a notorious motherfucker about it.
Yeah.
He flat out kind of refused publicly to ever even acknowledge Bill Finger, which is a shame. I'm just happy now that the Bill Finger is now starting to get credit for it. And please, yes, check out the documentary. It will hit Hulu on May 6th. So it'd be like next Saturday?
Next Saturday. Yeah, not this
like
Saturday,
that.
next Saturday.
So yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna be watching it, but it's just like the whole thing is just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, and it's kind of devastating to just think about that poor guy created, Batman and died penniless. Like Mark Tyler Nobleman, I think, when he was on Fat Man on Batman, he ended up getting an interview with Bill Finger's daughter. When Bill Finger passed away, I think he had maybe one or two even family members that showed up. It was just like his life was just so heartbreaking to think, like what ended up happening to him when he gave so much to the world with Batman, that Batman will last. Like he created a character that 75 years later, is like basically solo running a Hollywood studio almost. It is that big of a deal. Like they weren't even approaching any other characters other than Batman. Because Batman was all they needed. They throw out a Batman movie and Batman would make, $1 billion. It's that good of a character. It's a crazy story. We got a couple of TV stories we need to run through real quick while we're talking about DC. This is kind of a clusterfuck. Young Justice, they've been talking about how they kind of, because of fan support and the Netflix ratings, were able to get a season 3 underway. It is coming out next year. It is dubbed Young Justice Outsiders. If anyone has not checked out Young Justice, please check it out on Netflix because it's fucking great. And it's not quite as good as the the Bruce Timm sagas, between Justice League and Batman Beyond and Batman and all that stuff. But it's fucking close. It's really damn good. But we already knew about that. But the really surprising thing is that we might officially be getting finally a Teen Titans live action show, because what they're doing is they're almost kind of creating like a CBS All Access type of thing. They're going to be starting up a little subsection of DC streaming shows. Young Justice Season 3 is a part of that, coming out next year. And I think this Teen Titans thing is actually going to happen because since they're announcing their own little streaming service, they have to have a multitude of big things to be able to make money off of it, because why would anyone pay for just Young Justice? Like, they have to have an abundance of
we're going to have a DC No Access also?
There's going to be a little DC Netflix, basically, where do you remember the Constantine show, the animated Constantine show? I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up getting put on here. If they're smart, they will have the entire backlogs of all of the CW shows.
Yeah.
I would do that too, because I think they almost have to, because I would have every animated movie in their catalog available on there too. Anything I could get my hands on, I would put in there, because they almost have to. Because if this thing is more than $5 a month, I'm not gonna pay them just for DC stuff, as much as I love the shows.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna pay them anything anyway. I pay enough people, but I don't know. That disappoints me. I didn't know that part of the story.
Jeff Johns, Greg Berlanti, and Sarah Schechter, who is one of the main driving forces of Legends of Tomorrow. They are the three who are spearheading the live-action Titans show. I'm kind of curious what they end up going for as far as the tone of it. Like, I almost think they would end up skewing more towards the CW flavor of everything, when you think, because even though it's not going to be on CW, when you go after Berlanti and Schechter, like, I would think that would be kind of the voice of it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it makes sense with the success of the CW stuff, such as it is. We're not watching any of it, but
Right. Let's see. I'm just trying to see. The direct to consumer digital service is planned for 2018. We don't have any like specific dates or anything, but I don't know. It's pretty ballsy. Like that those shows better be fucking good, or people are gonna be pissed if they start paying side subscription fees to get access to it and it's not good.
I don't like this trend that everybody has to have their own subscription service.
I don't think it's gonna be a trend for very long.
I don't think it will be either.
Star Trek Discovery is going to crash and burn. I don't think unless the Teen Titans show is like as good as like the first season of The Flash and Legends of Tomorrow, unless it's fucking great from the get-go, I think you'll end up seeing them kind of segued over onto like a Hulu or something like that, like split back up onto an established streaming service. Because if I were them, I would have partnered with Hulu. I would have partnered with Hulu in the way that Marvel partnered with Netflix.
Yeah.
Because then you already have a backbone and you don't have to sell people on something. A lot of people already have Hulu,
Yeah.
And I think Hulu would have jumped to the gun to get like a DC lineup. I don't know.
No, that's I was hoping like Netflix or Hulu, but yeah, that's interesting. I still don't know if Titans happens. I don't have a lot of confidence in it because it's been such a shit show for so long now. Trying to get that off the ground.
The names behind
everything that DC has been doing that's live action lately has been kind of a shit show.
Legends of Tomorrow has been really good.
Legends of Tomorrow is good, but that's Berlanti's doing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's Geoff Johns, Berlanti, and Sarah Schechter that are running the show.
Hey, Flash and Arrow is Berlanti's doing also. So that's calm down.
Well, I don't know. I almost get the feeling like Berlanti just kind of signs the checks most of the time. He's kind of walks by. Geoff Johns and Sarah Schechter are the names that are the most like confidence building for the project. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see on it. I will be finding a way to watch them. Whether I pay them for their access will be another thing. But I will just leave it at that. The last bit of news we have for the week is pretty exciting actually, because Lock and Key has been a comic adaptation that has been in development hell, even worse than the Teen Titans stuff. This has been underway in Hollywood as a television series for like 8 years. It is kind of insane how many.
I've never heard of it.
It's kind of insane how many interpretations it's gone through from the different Hollywood studios that have been trying to tackle it. Originally, Fox had it, and thankfully, it didn't go through at Fox because it would have been canceled as soon as like they finished fucking filming the pilot.
Well, not to mention if they aired any of it, it'd be out of order.
Right. Fucking Fox. It blows my mind why anyone goes to Fox with their show. I wouldn't even approach them.
They're like the Sprint of networks. Like I don't understand why Fox hasn't had more issues and had to clean up their act yet.
I agree. You think the Whedon fans would have already burned down the building at least. But Lock and Key is officially underway. They have greenlit the pilot. The people on board are Joe Hill, the writer of the comic. For those unaware, Joe Hill is Stephen King's son. A lot of people will tell you that have read both. Joe Hill is actually more talented as far as how do I say this? Like Stephen King conceptually is probably better just because if you look at just all the metric fuck ton of properties he has developed. But from a technical aspect, his son is actually a better writer. Which is, high praise considering who his fucking dad is.
That's a lot to live up to.
And the biggest name as far as the production behind it, Scott Derrickson, the director of Sinister and Doctor Strange, will not only be directing the pilot, but is attached to helm several episodes and kind of be the driving voice behind the establishment of the show. Now, Lock and Key was a comic book with horror aspects and trippy visuals. Tell me they didn't get the picture perfect dude in the industry to do it. The guy who did fucking Sinister and Doctor Strange.
No, that is some of the most perfect.
It is a
anything
match
I've
made
ever heard
in heaven.
Yes.
And they haven't confirmed it yet, but I can almost guarantee you, C. Robert Cargill will be involved because him and Derrickson are writing partners. And I mean, you could look at everything they've done together has been great in my book because I loved Sinister. I think when you merge basically what they were able to do with Doctor Strange, with what they were able to do with Sinister, and kind of combine it together, I think it could be something really special. I think it's really smart of Hulu too, because for Hulu to get a show underway with Scott Derrickson, the director of Doctor Strange, as one of the main, driving forces of it, I think it's pretty impressive because they made a metric shit ton of money off of Doctor Strange. And
Yeah.
Doctor Strange is a bit like Guardians of the Galaxy. Like anyone that said that they were like gigantic Doctor Strange comic fans are kind of full of shit because no one
reads Doctor Strange.
No one reads Doctor Strange. Other than the most hardcore of fans. We don't have any release dates because they're just kind of underway, but it is a good sight to see that this project's finally happening because I think it will translate to a really cool show. He's projected to be doing Doctor Strange 2, Derrickson, but they're maybe looking at 2020 at the earliest because of how set the Marvel slate is at the moment for the next few years.
Not to mention how busy Cumberbatch probably is.
True. But so I would imagine since he's kind of free at the moment, they'll be able to get it going sooner rather than later for Lock and Key. But yeah, that's all the news we have this week. Ron, did you want to jump into our discussion?
Yes, I did. This is a fun one that we've been looking forward to.
It is Alien Day LV426. So in honor of it,
we at least while we're recording.
Yeah, true. So we are talking kind of a similar discussion to our favorite sci-fi concepts. This isn't going to be a ranking. We're just kind of throwing out a list of 5 things in no particular order that we love from the realm of creature concepts. So Ron, why don't you get us started? Give me the first thing you would like to talk about.
My best for last, to get it out of the way. One thing that has fascinated me is actually from the world of Doctor Who. One of the first things I always think of is the Weeping Angels. I find them fascinating.
And terrifying all at the same time.
And terrifying. Because I think part of it is their creativity when they write them. Because if you think about it, that would be an easy monster to just it be kind of cheesy or be the same thing every time they encounter it. And they manage to make them even more terrifying every time you see them.
Yeah, obviously, Stephen Moffat's we could do an entire series of creature feature shows that are just on the crazy shit Stephen Moffat has come up with. I guess after he had, I'm assuming, like a terrible, creepy childhood of just
evidently.
Like, I don't know if he was like a Ghostbuster as a little kid and saw some shit. Like, I don't know. But yeah, the Weeping Angels, I think, are the most iconic addition to the show since the reboot.
It's pretty impressive when you can take a show as old and iconic as Doctor Who is and add something to it that is held in the same esteem as the Daleks and the Cybermen, if not better. Like,
yeah, conceptually they are better.
That's pretty impressive.
Conceptually, I would say they are the coolest villain/creature concept that's ever been in Doctor Who. Just because, like, big props, I think, need to go to all the directors and the cinematographers for the episodes they've had them on, because when you don't really get to show them in action per se because of the way they work,
right?
You have to be really creative in the way you show them kind of teleporting around, and to the set designers and the costume designers for making them look creepy even though they aren't doing anything.
Yeah,
is very impressive.
I think you hit this. The cinematography for that stuff is very vital. There is one episode though. Remember when Amy had to walk around with her eyes shut? You actually see the Weeping Angels move.
Yeah.
Holy fuck! That still haunts my dreams, dude.
If you have it, even if you hate Doctor Who, you owe it to yourself to watch Blink, because Blink is seminal science fiction to me. Period. End of conversation.
Yes.
It is just.
If you're a science fiction fan, if you're a horror fan, if you're a suspense fan, I don't give two shits what you think of Doctor Who.
If you like entertainment that is entertaining, you owe it to yourself to watch Blink. It is just fucking genius. We haven't even really talked about like.
If you don't like Doctor Who, the episode is perfect too, because the Doctor's in it. What, 2 minutes of screen time?
Yeah. If that really, like, it's like
a minute and a half or something.
All at the end too. But like the thing is, that concept alone would have been enough to make them iconic and one of the absolute best. And then Moffat added on the whole other layer of their way of living you to death is fascinating in its own right.
Yes.
Because like they're almost merciful in a way. They don't really kill you. They just let you live out your time in a different time as they absorb all of your life force. But it's strange.
But getting to live knowing what happened to you and nobody else knowing and not being able to do anything about your situation. So I don't know how merciful that is.
Did you mute your?
I sounded fine on the recording. It just happened on your end.
Awesome. Pardon the technical difficulties. The Weeping Angels blinked me back 20 minutes ago, so we had to redo the recording. But Ron, why don't you continue your thought about the Weeping Angels, how they live you to death?
I'm not sure necessarily how merciful that is. You know?
Well, no, here's the thing. They let you live. You're just in a different time period. The Daleks and the Cybermen have much more terrible things they do to you, because the Daleks straight up fucking murder you.
I think I would prefer that over living to death.
But you still get to live out your life. You're just in a different time period. You didn't die.
You're in an unfamiliar time, not knowing when or where you are or anyone around. You're stranded. Your friends and family members you'll never get to see again. They'll never know what happened to you. Even if someone witnessed it, no one will ever believe them. Like, and even if they did know what happened to you, there's nothing they can do about it.
I don't want to spoil it, but the way that is used for certain characters later on, I think was kind of beautiful, though. Yeah. But that is a specific. I get what you're saying. For the majority, like 99.8% of the time, that was fucked up. But the way that it happens to those characters in the show was kind of beautiful to me. So that's what I first think of.
What I think of is in Blink, the guy in the hospital. That's what I think of.
Yeah.
Like, you had the opportunity for a new life, but at the same time, it's just like everything that you've ever worked for is just gone, and everyone you've ever cared about is gone. And I don't necessarily know how merciful that is.
That you do get teleported out of Trump America. So that's kind of
that is true.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's a fascinating. We could have an entire conversation just about that concept, and that isn't even like the thing they're known for.
I know,
it's crazy. Just really quickly, my list. I have a couple that are kind of obvious Geoff answers, but I wanted to go like a little bit more obscure instead of just having like the ones you would expect me to include. But I fucking love that. If I was doing a top 5 best creatures, the Weeping Angels would be top 3, if not higher. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I just want to go watch Blink and the Angels Take Manhattan and all of like the best Weeping Angel episodes now. That's another thing too. once they realized they were using them a lot, they quit using them. They didn't overuse them. That's another thing they did smartly with them. Did you have anything else you wanted to add with Weeping Angels?
No, because I probably won't stop if I continue talking.
Right.
Because it's just like one of those things, like you said, that you could sit here all night and just discuss that one monster.
Watch Blink.
Which is just a testament to how well done that creature is.
Watch
it's a
Blink.
fucking statue, and you could talk about it all night.
Yeah, watch Blink. If you hate Doctor Who and if you love Doctor Who, just go watch Blink again. I will segue to my Doctor Who monster that I added to my list, which was not the Weeping Angels, as much as I love them. And like I said, if I was doing a best of, the Weeping Angel would be higher. But I was going for just kind of a little bit more oddball inclusions. The Vashta Narada.
I almost started with that, but I knew that's where you were going to go. As I read your article, I knew that's where you were going to go.
I fucking love the Vashta Narada, dude. That's another thing, too. They were on there for
That's
2
another
episodes.
Moffat one.
That's yeah. Well, like we could do an entire series of just the Moffat ones. But the Vashta Narada were on there, as far as I know, just those 2 episodes, right? And they were never touched again.
I believe so.
Like they...
Could you imagine like a Capaldi episode where some poor bastard steps into a shadow and that's how you know they're there?
Oh, man. Or if you open up a Capaldi episode and they're seemingly on like a cool destination and then Capaldi just has 2 shadows and he just looks at it and that's when they cut to the music of the intro. Like they could... And the whole episode is just Capaldi freaking the fuck out as he tries to find a way to save himself. But yeah, the Vashta Narada, it's one of those things. Fucking like Stephen Moffat, his whole thing is like, what is some mundane part of reality?
Yeah.
That I can make horrifying. And all those little tiny dust particles in the air. Oh, yeah, they're murder piranha. That's what they are now. And you're just like, well, thanks, Stephen Moffat, because now I'm afraid of dust.
I'm afraid of gas masks. I'm afraid of statues. I'm afraid of dust. I'm Stephen Moffat. I'm afraid of any time I have a short memory lapse. Like, I'm afraid of everything.
In Listen... I'm afraid of something that I don't even know what I'm looking at.
I know.
And you never find out.
I know.
Fucking, we just need to do a Stephen Moffat.
I don't want to get too far off topic, but that episode has one of my favorite speeches he gives, though.
Yes. Yeah, Listen's fucking great. But yeah, the Vashta Narada, and if that wasn't all enough, they fucking... Well, okay. The way they're literally air piranha that operate only in the darkness. And when they eat you, they consume all of your flesh in like milliseconds. And then if that wasn't enough, they can possess the fucking skeleton like it's a fucking Scooby-Doo episode. And
they're a super organism. Like they even learned how to speak through the damn thing on the suit.
And then like the whole time, it's like one of my favorite things in Doctor Who is when the Doctor has no answers. Because his only thing is like you're fucked. Just run. That's all you can do because they're that scary. And the Doctor even talks about how for ages mankind and every creature has an irrational fear of the dark. Well, it's not entirely irrational, he says. Yeah.
That episode, it's a special reason why they're there, and it's kind of a plot point, him figuring it out. But basically, they're on every planet in every shadow, but they're in such small numbers they can't really do anything to a large creature. That's the other thing, too. They're everywhere, Geoff. They're behind you in your hallway and in your kitchen.
No. The episode Silence in the Library, and I can't remember what the name of the second part of it was, but it was a 2-parter. If you find Silence in the Library, that will be, I believe, the first part of it. And they're both great episodes. It's like a great science fiction movie.
That's when they introduced River, too.
Yeah, that you can watch. You can watch even without having ever watched Doctor Who. It's kind of like Blink. It's kind of self-contained. You can just enjoy it as science fiction, I think. But yeah, that is my... Now, obviously, I could do an entire creature section of just Doctor Who stuff, but that was my only Doctor Who inclusion. Really quickly, I will plug if you want to support Geoff, you can go over to goomastomp.com and check out my top 5 best Doctor Who monsters article.
Shameless
plug. Okay, what's your next inclusion you would like to talk about, Ron?
I didn't actually make like a formal list, but things that jump out at me. I gotta say, the next one I would want to talk to you about. I'm trying to kind of go off the wall too, because originally I was doing like top 5 best, but there's one specifically I'm going to mention, and there's one specifically I know you're probably going to mention.
Well, let's get our obvious ones out of the way. Go ahead and talk about your obvious one.
Goddamn Xenomorph.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next one on the list, please.
It's so iconic. It's a fucking holiday. That's like all you really need to say.
Pretty much, dude. Just down to behavioral patterns and the fucking monster design, like alone. That thing haunts my nightmares still to this day. Like that's like the only thing I'm actually terrified, like legitimately terrified of. That night that you came over, I think it was on a Halloween, we watched, I think, Alien and maybe Aliens, and we played Isolation. And I was in the apartment, and I went to walk Shepard after you left, and I was afraid of the shadows, like walking around. Like I stayed in the light for some reason. Yeah, like it was the goddamn Vashta Narada or something.
It was almost like one of those things too, where it's like if they weren't bad enough, their blood's acid, so you can't hurt them.
The blood is acid. They've got talons on their fingers. They have a spike on their tail. They have a second mouth that jets out several feet. They're stealthy. And one thing that makes it super terrifying to me also, not as terrifying as another one of my favorite creatures, but still pretty terrifying, it's a fucking feral beast.
There's no reasoning with the Xenomorph.
There's no reasoning with it. There's no bargaining with it. It just does what it does. You know, like that kind of is a weakness to it because they use that to their advantage to predict its movements and to set traps for it and this and that. And it survives all that because it's the fucking ultimate organism. But yeah, dude, the thing breathes in space. Like, I don't know. The thing is just fucking terrifying.
Yeah. Especially with Covenant coming out, I encourage people to, at the very least, go back and watch the first Alien, because that is, I think, your biggest tie-in to the new movie as far as tone.
I believe so, yeah.
I think it is going to be more balls to the wall horror than it has been for quite some time, because I remember obviously the more recent ones as far as like Prometheus and AVP and everything like that, but were Alien 3 and 4, were they a little bit more action heavy than they were horror as well?
3, I think, attempted to go back to Alien, but I didn't like the setting. I think the setting, it had a little bit more lighthearted tone. 4 is Joss Whedon, so, you know, it's Joss Whedon.
He wrote Alien 4?
It's got a little bit of Joss Whedonism. It's got a little bit of Alien in it. It's got a little bit of Aliens.
Did he actually write it, or was he just kind of like the?
I'm gonna double check now that you asked, but if I recall, it said plain as day on screen, written by, and my jaw went through the floor because I never knew that.
I actually fucking revisit it because I had no idea. I've only seen it like once when I was a little kid, so I don't even really remember the 4th one.
It says written by Joss Whedon.
Crazy. I never knew that.
There's 2 other writing credits for just the characters. The actual story was Joss Whedon.
I never knew that.
Then I'm not going to tell you the thing that he added to them then, because it's kind of fucking terrifying. But yeah, it's, even if you forget that popped up on screen when the movie starts, dude, there's little ways that you always know Joss Whedon's work. You're gonna know throughout the movie it's Joss Whedon. It's got a little bit of Firefly in it, dude. I mean,
that's all you need to say. That's all you need to say.
That movie, by the way, people pretend like 3 and 4 don't exist. Resurrection's not as bad as people.
That's kind of what I hear. I hear people
I think people hate it because 3 exists. Like people just cut it off at 3.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where a little bit of like the Star Wars Episode 3 syndrome. People are like, fuck it, it's part of those movies. So
honestly, Alien Resurrection is probably the closest thing to like a prequel to StarCraft that you'll ever get.
Yeah, I with the Heart of the Swarm. What's the girl's name? Who's the Queen of Blades? Yeah. It's
basically Terrans, which are the humans, and Zerg, and part of the StarCraft story is Zerg as a weapon. So Resurrection's not as bad as people will lead you to believe.
I will be
One thing that is crazy is insane Doctor Who in Alien 3. Because McGann is in it.
Paul McGann. Charles Dance from Game of Thrones is also in Alien.
And Charles
3.
Dance is and he's terrifying.
Yeah. As he should be.
He's a good guy, but just knowing the other roles he's played, he's terrifying.
Yeah. I love me some Charles Dance. All right, I will go ahead and get my obvious one out of the way, and that is The Thing, because of course. I don't even know if I should really say anything because I just licked John Carpenter's The Thing's nutsack all the time.
I tried to keep my Xenomorph talk light because we've talked about it several times.
Yeah, my whole thing with The Thing is mainly the I'm a sucker for practical effects. The effects in The Thing still fucking hold up to this day. It still looks fucking awesome. And
same with Alien, I might add.
I would agree. And
I'm going to rain on your goddamn Thing parade as much as I can here by bringing in Alien every chance I get.
My Thing can beat up your Alien.
My Alien's dad can beat up your Thing's dad.
You got Alien in my Thing.
Dude, fuck Alien versus Predator.
Alien versus Thing?
Yes. Yeah. And then we get Alien Thing because they both evolve.
Dude, you just call it a day. You just end yourself with one of those plasma guns if that happens.
Thinglian.
But the main thing that I love about it is how it can transform itself into masking itself as other people, and the way it's used within the script, and just how tense the movie is. Because like the tension in that movie is so thick at points you could cut it with a knife. Like
yes.
It is an intense fucking movie, and it stays that way for like an hour and a half. And yeah, I'm gonna leave my conversation on John Carpenter's The Thing light as well, because I talk about it all the fucking time. Because if it's not my favorite movie, it is definitely in my top 5. Like it is in the conversation for my favorite movie. But yeah, what's your next inclusion?
I'm just gonna go ahead and get my other one out of the way. It's still appropriate, but the fucking Predator.
Like, see, I have always I love Alien, but I've always liked the concept of the Predator a lot better.
And I agree. Alien is up there to be with like one of my all-time favorite movies, if not my favorite movie. But as far as creature concept goes, I think Predator is my number one. If I had to rank him, just because he's everything that is terrifying about the alien, but he's sentient. And traps don't work so well on Predator.
And he can turn invisible. And
his reasoning, Jeff, it's all sport. There's no bargaining with that either.
The Predator is so fucking cool.
Dude, he's just so cool. Love the Predator. And he's not just like creature, like horror movie. He's sci-fi also. He's advanced technology. He's an advanced alien being, and he's here for fucking sport. And what's his trophy, Jeff? He rips your spine out of your body by the tailbone.
Mortal Kombat fucking style. Yeah. The first Predator movie is so good.
It's so good. And
It's so
again,
good.
Predator 2, not nearly as bad as people will lead you to believe.
And
It's not the first one, but it's not nearly as bad.
I cannot put into words how excited I am for the Shane Black Predator movie coming out next year.
Oh God, I know. Give it.
I want it.
Me
Oh,
now.
Ron, I also found another thing that will give you a nerd boner. The guy doing the cinematography for Shane Black's Predator movie did fucking Kong Skull Island, dude. Like, give me that movie now. It's going to be so good. Ron's dead.
I don't even know. I don't even know how to respond to that.
Right? But, like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, it's like the cat gif. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even, dude. I want that movie so goddamn bad.
The
Predators.
So cool.
I really liked Predators too. I never knew Adrian Brody had it in him.
Or Topher Grace, for that matter.
Gross.
Grace is not bad in it either. I agree. I don't think Predators is like a great movie, but I think it definitely got more shit than it deserved because I thought it was perfectly fine. It was one of those things. It's not exactly reinventing the fucking wheel, but for like what was it? Was it the third Predator movie, right?
Yeah.
Because the second one tanked the box office so bad they didn't really touch it. Well, Predator only movie because I don't consider AVP and AVP 2.
I consider those separate.
I consider them separate as well. But yeah, Predator is so fucking cool. It kind of just speaks for himself.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Let's see. All the ones I have left are a little bit more off the wall that I don't think would be ones that you would expect me to put on a list like this. My next one that I'm going to talk about is I actually really like all of the monsters in Cloverfield because I don't know what any of them are. They aren't explained. Right. They are just fucking, they're just there and you just have to deal with it. And like in the first fucking Cloverfield, the only explanation you get, you can miss if you're not paying attention because it's literally the last like scene of the movie. You see a little meteorite drop into the bay next to fucking Coney Island. That's it. That's your fucking explanation. That's all you get.
You pointed it out to me.
And I probably watched that movie like 2 or 3 times without noticing it. And I probably never would have noticed it had someone online not pointed it out for me on like a review or like a monsters list or something like that. But yeah, my whole thing in fiction in general, but especially in horror, the less you know about a thing, the better it is because your imagination will do wonders for scaring you a lot better than any specifically laid out story can.
And the last 3 things we talked about, the Thing, Alien, and Predator, all fall under that same category. Yeah. What do you know about them, Geoff?
Yeah, especially
we've seen the Predator homeworld once, and it was just sand.
Especially,
like, that's the most we know.
Especially in the first movies of all of these, or first episodes of everything. Blink. You don't learn shit about the Weeping Angels. The first Alien movie, you don't learn shit at all about the Xenomorphs. Predator's the same way. He's just fucking there.
Dude, Predator, we still don't know what they're called. We don't know what that race is referred to or what they're called. Yeah. We just call them Predator because that's the name of the movie. Xenomorph wasn't used till the sequel for Alien. And the Thing, it's called the Thing. You know why? We don't know what the fuck it is. It's a thing.
Yeah. Cloverfield's had 2 movies. And you still don't know what the fuck anything going on is or what they are.
I just know John Goodman can be terrifying. That's all I know.
Yeah, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Mew? I will marry you one day, Mrs. Mew. What's your?
Why am I limited to one wife?
What is your next thing on the list?
I'm sorry, I got to do it. I know it's cliche. I know it's old, and I know that it especially doesn't work today. That's been proven. But I've always been a pretty big Godzilla fan, actually. That's why I was so pissed off at that most recent movie. But I really, of all the kaiju, for some reason, probably just because I grew up watching the old black and white rubber suit cardboard city movies.
Yeah.
But I fucking love Godzilla. King
I
Kong
like.
never really appealed to me until Skull Island.
Oh my God, Skull Island.
So good.
He's so good.
It's so good.
It's that movie will make you a King Kong fan.
Yes, it did me.
Yeah, I did same because my whole thing with Godzilla, I like the concept of Godzilla way more than Kong, but I don't think there's ever been a Godzilla movie that is as good as Kong Skull Island. That's why I'm really hoping that director from Skull Island gets to do Godzilla and he actually gets like justice done to him, because like I like the movie from '98 when I was a kid, but I have never really revisited it since, so I don't know how I would feel about it now. But I sure as shit don't like the 2014 one, because like when it becomes a conversation of who has more screen time between Godzilla and Bryan Cranston, who is in the movie for the first like 5 minutes of the film, that is a problem.
And what really pissed me off, you think it would help, but it actually pissed me off more, is in that final scene when Godzilla finally shows up and wrecks shit, and it's so good.
Yeah.
It pisses me off even more.
When he breath laser beams down the throat of that kaiju is like the most badass thing I've ever seen.
It's one of the most metal things I've ever seen in a monster movie, period, not just kaiju movie.
And then what I remember watching,
and I walked out of the theater pissed off about that.
Yeah,
because I'm like, you could have done this. You had the potential.
I when that scene happened, it was like the ultimate case of far too little, too late. Because I was like, that was awesome. Where the fuck was that for the last hour and 45 minutes?
Like the writers finally showed up.
Yeah. It is insane to me. It's like we have in this Godzilla movie, Godzilla and Bryan Cranston at our disposal. We're not going to use them though, because fuck that. Nobody likes Godzilla or Bryan Cranston. I
don't know that this kaiju monster universe is going to take off. I hope it does.
As long as the director of Skull Island is doing shit, it'll be good.
Since, people liked Godzilla 2014, but critics did not. So that, I think, is how we end up at Skull Island, because even though people liked it, and yeah, it's a financial success, critics still influence things. So I think we arrive at Skull Island because they gave us the best parts of Godzilla throughout Skull Island. The best 2 scenes of Godzilla throughout Skull Island.
Yeah.
And if Skull Island sets our new tone for their universe,
give it to me.
Give it to me.
All of it.
Especially Ghidorah. I want Ghidorah.
I don't know how to pronounce his name. Jordan Vogt Roberts or Voight. I don't know how to pronounce his middle name, but that's the director of it. Anything he's attached to in that franchise, I will be their opening weekend for, because Kong Skull Island was fucking awesome. And I really want Godzilla to be done modern justice. Fucking finally. Like it right now, if you want justice, like as much as I like the Matthew Broderick one, true Godzilla fan, you got to go to the old black and white stuff. But people gripe about the design, by the way, in the Matthew Broderick one. I'm sorry. If it's an American-made movie, we get to pick the design. It makes more sense if he was just recently created, that he wouldn't look like a prehistoric, pre-dinosaur monster, that he would look more like a lizard. Like that was kind of their whole thing. Nuclear tests in the ocean created him. So... yeah, but I honestly couldn't tell you my opinion on the movie just because it's been like 15, 20 years since I've seen it.
I could probably still quote it. I really like that movie. You know why? It gave me Godzilla.
Yeah, it's for one thing, I don't care what anyone says, it is better than Godzilla 2014, because you can complain about the design, you can complain about the CGI. At least he's fucking present within the movie.
Yeah, the name of the movie was Godzilla, not soldier in transit to getting
generic white guy protagonist 2014. That was the name of that movie.
Yes.
All right. My next inclusion is the Brundlefly from The Fly.
That has a name?
That's the name of the fly.
I never knew that.
I'm a sucker for practical effects. I have seen The Fly one time in my life, And I am still haunted by some of the imagery of what falls off of his body in that movie.
No shit. Now, when you're talking The Fly, which one are you talking?
The Jeff Goldblum.
Okay,
Jeff
so
Goldblum one.
the remake.
Yeah.
The good one.
Cronenberg. I think Cronenberg did it.
Yeah,
The one with Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis.
Jeff Goldblum. Okay, that's the one I think of when I think of The Fly.
The practical, you're gonna talk about practical effects to fucking hold up, watch The Fly, because that movie is impressively demented and creepy. The body horror you see in that movie.
So much creepy shit going on.
I really like it too. The concept behind that movie of your creature feature is based around the creature being your protagonist, basically.
Yes. It's unique in that aspect, isn't it?
It's very rare. If it's been done in other things, it's very rare. Because like when you're watching and it was fucking Jeff Goldblum with pieces falling off and he's putting them in jars in his fucking medicine cabinet. Like,
if we ever get, I know we won't, but if we ever get live action Spider-Man having issues becoming the Man Spider, I want The Fly to be their influence for it.
That would be really cool.
Like a Marvel toned version, obviously, because that would just be way out of left field for Marvel.
Yeah.
But I want that to be the influence for it.
But it's just you will not feel like eating food for like a day after you watch that movie, because it's like one of those things I saw like one time.
I haven't seen that probably since I was a kid, and I can still remember shit happening.
Yeah, it is the exact same thing for me, because like I think the last time I watched it was like early 2000s, like 15 years ago maybe, and I still remember a lot of the imagery because it is just that well done and that haunting. And yes, I love all the designs, both conceptually and the effects for the Fly. So you have one more? Because I think you've listed off Godzilla, Weeping Angels, and Xenomorph and Predator. So you got one more you can throw in.
Actually, we're even right now.
Yeah, you're going into your final one, and then I have my final one.
Okay.
By the way, we will be. I don't know if we said it or not. We will be doing a second edition of this the week the Covenant comes out. This was just kind of 1.0 for celebration of LV426. But yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna say I forget the name of them, but the zombies in The Last of Us.
They are the clickers are the names of the really iconic ones.
The concept overall.
The concept that they're based off of is cordyceps, which is the name of the fungal kind of paranoid disease that makes the insects go crazy. Yeah.
Because I think...
Good fucking call. I adore that game. Maybe my favorite game, and I didn't even think to include them. So good call.
What I was thinking about that earlier, because you told me in text that you're going to kind of go out of left field on some of them, and I was like, what is something I would include? And one of the first things that came to mind when I started thinking of off the wall stuff that you don't really think about is Last of Us, because how many different zombie movies have you seen? How many different takes on zombies have you seen? And they all include either some kind of virus, or one of my favorite aspects of Dawn of the Dead is no one can fucking explain what's happening. But if you want to talk about in the age of where movies are trying to be as grounded and realistic and give you an explanation of why shit is happening, and you want to do zombies,
the cordyceps thing is genius.
Fucking genius.
Whoever thought of that concept for that game should have been paid enough money for it to never have to work again, because it was just a masterstroke of brilliance.
I don't remember the name of it now, but remember I told you when we were talking Last of Us when it was first out, I told you I had seen a documentary on cordyceps.
Seriously, anyone listening to this right now, if you want to go down the rabbit hole on YouTube, look up documentaries on cordyceps, because you will be fascinated for like 3 hours as you learn how fucked up
I saw something on TV, something on Discovery Channel. No, it couldn't have been Discovery Channel. They don't do that shit anymore. It had to be Science Channel. That's where all that moved to. And when you look at the interviews with the game developers, the guy that created the concept in the game watched the same fucking documentary that I did, and he was just captivated by
it might be the same one that I'm thinking of too. Is it the one where they focus on the insect crawling up the leaf as it dies and just waits to die? Yeah.
And they show you every gruesome detail of it. And he was just absolutely fascinated, and The Last of Us was born. Like, he went and talked to people, and that's how that game even came about, was that damn documentary. I'll have to look up which one it was again. But
it's the coolest take on zombies, I think, maybe ever.
And the way it can spread is terrifying, because even if you've never seen one in your life, if you walk into the wrong mist in front of you, because the spores, it's a fungus. They release spores.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. And don't mention the goddamn clickers to me at night.
That sound effect, too. Sound effect's so good. Just instant nervous reaction. You just get the shakes. Just fucking thinking about it. That's another thing too. Is like Last of Us would have been a brilliant game just off of the concept of their relationship dynamics. It's like, no. In addition to the good character design and dynamics, it's like, oh, we have this brilliant fucking zombie concept to go along with it too.
And not to stay on the game because we're talking creatures here, but the other thing that is different about Last of Us that makes it so good, we talk about cinematic games all the time, right? But what are they usually? Action adventure. Fucking horror cinematic game like that. It was perfect marriage, dude. You want to talk about two great tastes that taste great together, like you mentioned earlier? Horror concept and cinematic gameplay. And because what's more immersive than a cinematic movie? A cinematic
and they game. They took it to the best. Naughty Dog did that goddamn game.
Yes.
Because it was tailor-made for Naughty Dog, because they're all about, making a cinematic experience. It just happens to be a game. That's kind of like what they're all about. I just want to play The Last of Us real bad. No, I love The Last of Us.
I think the remastered version for PS4 is on sale on the PlayStation Store.
I already own it.
For anyone else, Bobby, Bobby has it too.
Bobby.
For anyone else listening, which I highly doubt, but
play The Last of Us and have a better use of your time.
So your reaction to every time I mention I haven't finished it yet? Bobby, last time he came over here, he mentioned it, and my wife goes, yeah, he still hasn't finished it. And even Bobby was like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, I finished it.
I already said, we're fucking playing that goddamn game on a Let's Play sooner rather than later to its entirety. I'm going to fucking force you. If I have to play every second of that game with you just to get you to fucking finish it, we are doing that. All right. My last inclusion is Bagul, who is the monster from Sinister.
Okay.
Because if you want to talk about, like, one of my favorite things about some of these creatures in movies, be it, horror or just sci-fi, but I have always loved the concept of a creature which you have no answer for. You are just fucked. Yes. And if you want to talk about just a metal fucking concept to which you have no answer for, Bagul in Sinister is a demigod from pagan religious backgrounds who kills you with your children. That is a terrifying fucking concept. Oh, and when he's done with them, he steals your children. That's his fucking thing. Like, the concept behind him is creepy to me.
Yes.
And it's just like one of those things too. It's like, what do? There's nothing you can do. What, you're gonna fight the pagan demigod? No.
Yeah.
You get a better shot against fucking Hellraiser and the Cenobites than you do against Bagul.
Yeah. No. Thank you for fucking haunting me forever with that movie.
It's such a good movie. It's so good. Sinister is the last modern horror movie of the last 10 years or so to give me exactly what I want in a horror movie. And I think it's incredibly underrated and underwatched.
It has, when you and I talk horror movies on this show, it has all those elements that we ever talk about. The way it uses its music, the way it uses its lighting, the way it uses its cinematography. Your cues, worst thing about horror movies is the cues give shit away. Like, your music cues you in. Something clues you into what's happening. That movie, shit just fucking happens, and the clue comes after. It's like Doctor Strange. The warning comes after the spell. Like everything happens after you already know about
and it's funny you mention it because it's it's Cargill and Derrickson. It's like,
Is it?
It's Cargill and Derrickson that did Sinister. That was when, if you remember, the reason we mainly watched Sinister was because you were gung ho over Doctor Strange. It's like, oh, you don't even know, because I'm going to show you what the guys that are doing it have done, and you'll understand why they're so perfect for it. But yeah, I fucking love Sinister, and it's such a good use of it was like it was personally made for me, and I
have PTSD mowing my lawn.
The fucking scene, dude. Well, you know what's funny is I listen to Cargill's podcast that he does. I don't remember when he talked about it, but at one point, all of the 8mm Super 8 type of basically snuff films.
Yeah.
When he was making all of those concepts, the way that they did it was Derrickson had Cargill basically go away for like a week and a half and only come up with fucked up ways you could kill people within your own home or lawn. So he compiled a list of about 50 creative, awful ways for people to die, and they picked their favorites. That is how macabre the development of Sinister became. So you got to go to a dark place when you think of that shit, dude.
Oh my god!
And it plays out in that movie because that movie is just—it's like dread for an hour and a half, just fucking cinematic dread, and you feel the tension of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the thing that's fun about this is we could probably end up doing like 7 iterations of creature concepts because
easily.
This
is one we're gonna revisit many times.
Many times. Eventually, we might just say fuck it and do a Doctor Who Moffat episode because immediately we went to Moffat Doctor Who concepts.
I'm down with that.
Maybe we'll tie that in with one of like the Doctor Who season finale or something like that later on. But yeah, if you like to check us out more, please like and subscribe. We have Let's Plays in addition to our weekly podcast. Game of Thrones should be returning this week. With our tonight's watch revisits of the previous seasons. We are just now starting season 3. Social media links for Facebook and Twitter are below in the description, and please share us out to anyone else you think might also like our content. I am Geoff.
I'm Ron.
And I don't know if I'm gonna be able to sleep tonight because we just kind of like, what's all of the things that you find spooky? Let's just talk about a whole lot of that shit for like 45 minutes.
And one thing that I noticed that I was thinking about this is creature concepts. We went all horror. But that doesn't necessarily mean horror.
Yeah. You could have technically Chewbacca is a creature.
It's a creature.
It's a creature concept.
So yeah, we are going to. You and I went to horror because our favorite monsters or favorite creatures are all from horror movies. But I mean, this is a limitless topic.
Absolutely, and it's a fun topic to talk about because
dude, our dogs are creatures, and they're a concept. So.
I don't trust them. I don't trust them. All right, guys. Thank you for listening to us. If you have stuck with us this far, and we will see you next week.